Capcom is taking Monster Hunter in a bad direction by shifting their focus towards getting the most money possible out of fans. Let's start here for an example. Monster Hunter used to have great deluxe editions for their games. And I'm talking about deluxe editions here, not pre-order bonuses. Pre-order bonuses are worse across the whole video game industry these days. Deluxe editions are a nice little arrangement in gaming, where someone who's a fan of a series gets some extra memorabilia to go with their copy of the game, and the game company gets an extra 10 or 15 bucks. Monster Hunter has been doing these forever, and before the series blew up with World, it was cool when Capcom did something special for the fanbase outside Japan. You can take this with a grain of salt in light of my pro Monster Hunter Tri bias, but the Classic Controller Pro bundle for Tri stands out to me as one of the best. For $10 extra, you got what ended up being probably the best traditional controller available for the Wii. For Ultimate also had a great bundle that was more what you expect from a deluxe edition, with a nice little magnetic item chest and a statue of the game's featured monster, the Gormagala. Now when Monster Hunter Rise was first announced, it bugged me as a longtime series fan that the game's digital deluxe edition charged an extra $10 for not much more than a couple of cosmetics. It's something that didn't really matter much in an industry where every developer is trying to squeeze extra money out of games where they can, but it was just a little disappointing for a series that for a very long time had a small, loyal fan base in the West. I was also pretty frustrated with the version of Monster Hunter Rise that we got on launch because of how unfinished it was, but looking back we can understand how much COVID affected the game's development. I was worried in the lead up to Sunbreak that was going to be a big cash grab, but Sunbreak ended up being some of the best Monster Hunter content we've gotten in quite a while. Now the thing about Capcom as a company is that if you watch them from the outside for long enough, you realize that they have some sort of internal balance that requires them to make one bad decision for every good decision they make. And so Capcom followed up the fantastic Sunbreak DLC with the decision to release special layered weapons that can only be acquired as a microtransaction. Now this is a move that people have had lots of opinions about, and I don't think I need to explain the problem with the decision that Capcom made here. But I wanted to look at this decision in the context of Monster Hunter as a series, and why I think this is symptomatic of a bad direction the series overall is taking. Monster Hunter Rise launched on Switch with a deluxe version that cost extra money for this list of features. Basically a few layered armor items and some other non-gameplay add-ons. If you go to buy Monster Hunter Rise on Steam right now, they'll charge you an extra $15 for this set of deluxe content, which I would point out is a quarter of the cost of the actual game for a few items that add nothing meaningful to the game at all. Now, cosmetics as a paid option have been the big debate in gaming since Team Fortress 2, but to me, if it's something that's easy for the player to ignore, it's really not that big of a deal. Where things have gotten messy in gaming lately is when a company charges money for a feature that used to be included with the base game for free. Anybody who's played Madden or NBA 2K over the years has seen this play out in those franchises, and companies like EA have been especially aggressive with this. Game pricing is weird when you think about how games with very different amounts of content in them cost the same price, but I think it sticks out especially when you're charging a quarter of what a game costs to add 0.001% extra content to the game. Going back throughout the history of the Monster Hunter series, you've always been able to unlock goofy, unique weapons and armor by doing special event quests. One of the best parts of Monster Hunter World was the crossover quests with other franchises like The Witcher and Final Fantasy, as these quests even had custom gameplay and let you get a little flavor of the other game series through the lens of Monster Hunter. And what's also important about these crossovers is that they were free. Base Game World comes at full price, Iceborne comes at DLC price. When you've purchased those two expansions, there is no part of the gameplay that is roped off from your access for extra cash. Now, World did charge money for some custom emotes, but this doesn't affect the actual gameplay of the game in any meaningful way. And to be honest with you, if you're paying money for a custom emote in Monster Hunter, you have nobody but yourself to blame. Most of the special event quests in Monster Hunter prior to World focused on content that was still within the Monster Hunter universe, but I think that World did a great job transitioning the Monster Hunter experience into a style that allowed for true crossovers as a fun bonus for the fans. Now with the layered weapons, you can argue that Capcom put in the extra effort of custom sound effects and designs, but you cannot tell me that these little bits of extra effort justify charging one Hollow Knight for something that's neat a couple of times and then never again. If you add up all the DLC for Monster Hunter Rise, you end up spending more money than the actual game itself. Capcom is far from the first company to do this, and they're absolutely not the only ones doing it right now, but this is a big shift for a series that used to take good care of its fans. There's a point for me where it's hard not to look at these changes both as a change in how Capcom views their consumer, but also in how the Monster Hunter franchise has moved in a bad direction overall. In all likelihood, the developers of the series have absolutely zero to do with the DLC decisions that are being made for these games, and it's frustrating to see their efforts getting redirected in this way. When the layered weapons rolled out, a lot of people wondered if this would ever lead to a point where actual quests are paywalled in Monster Hunter. Personally, I think Capcom is smart enough to understand that a shift like that would really provoke a backlash from their fan base, but the problem is that Capcom and other developers are now constantly testing how much they can get away with. Cosmetics don't have to be a bad thing, but it's always going to be frustrating to see a developer charge for something that used to be free. And charging for cosmetics in a game that already costs $60 reflects a shift in how the developer views its players. And even if we put aside how these decisions show what a developer thinks of its players, the ultra monetization of games does a lot of damage to the legitimacy of games as an art form for both players and outside observers. Oh hey, I didn't see you there. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. I'm really hoping to get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and viewers like you are the ones that make it possible.